Glory to God. So look at verse 6, because God continues to describe it in verse 6. Look what God says in verse 6. Is not this the fast that I've chosen? First he says to afflict your soul, and then he describes afflicting your soul. Is this it? Abstaining from food, putting on the bulrush, holding your head low? Is that it? Then he gets to verse 6. Is not this the fast I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. That's the fast God has chosen. Listen. To loosen the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. Okay, now listen, guys. This is going to be real easy for you guys to connect to because it's a famous verse, so I'm not going to pull it up. Those are the same words Jesus said in Matthew 11:28 when he said, "Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls." So Jesus describes that all the things that Isaiah said a fast would do, Jesus describes all those things happening when a person comes to him. Okay? You guys following that? You see that? So listen, the word wickedness means to be filled with laboring and toiling to try to conquer the death you see in your life and to make manifest life. That's what wickedness means. Wicked means to be filled with laboring and toiling. So the bands of wickedness for these people was that they were in bondage to a life of laboring and toiling to try to conquer the death they saw and to try to bring forth life in themselves. They were laboring and toiling to try to be blessed by God. They were laboring and toiling to try to get the blessing of God. They were in bondage to a system of laboring and toiling to get the fruit of God's life to manifest. They were in bondage to a system of laboring and toiling to try to get God to move in their life. That's the band of wickedness. The fast they were busy with was actually the band of wickedness. Okay? They're busy with the band of wickedness. So guys, these people were in bondage to the law system. They were in bondage to death. They saw death and they thought their ability to get out of the death was found in their own strength. And that was putting them in bondage. It was oppressing them. They were in bondage through a system of trying to be justified and trying to attain to the approval of God by what they could do. They were being oppressed by death. The death was telling them they don't have life, but if they could use their ability to have life, then they could be free. They had taken on a yoke of bondage. They had taken on an oppression because the yoke they had taken upon themselves said their salvation was found in human ability. That was the band of wickedness. And so God says, the fast I have chosen will loosen that band off of you. The fast I have chosen will set you free from that yoke of bondage you have right now. The fast I have chosen for you will set you free from the oppression that death is having in your life. The fast I've chosen for you will bring forth rest in your souls, is what he says. So listen, guys, when Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, Jesus might as well have said, I am the fast God has chosen. That's what he might as well have said in Matthew 11:28. I am the fast that God has chosen. Come unto me and feed on the truth that is in me as the bread that can give you life, and it will bring forth rest in you. It will cause you to abstain from making human ability your food for life. And then that will break the bands of wickedness. That will set you free from the yoke of bondage. That will set you free from the oppression of death. Come unto me and feed on the word of life that's being made flesh in me. And this is the bread that can give you life. And should you feed on the bread of life, it will break or loosen the bands of wickedness. It will set you free from the oppression of death. It will set you free from the yoke of bondage and trying to bring forth life in yourself. It will bring rest to your souls, man. Isn't that what God said the fast he has chosen will do? It will cause you to rest from your works. Jesus says, come unto me, feed on me as the meat that gives you life, instead of feeding on human ability, and that will put your soul to rest. That's the fast God has chosen, man. You're actually not abstaining from food at all. It's just that you're making Jesus your food for life. And you're turning away from making human ability your food for life. Listen, you can't even make yourself abstain from human ability. Do you realize that? The point of this message isn't for me to tell you, if you don't want to hear from this, let me go abstain from human ability. That's human ability. Do you know what you want to hear? Jesus is the fast God has chosen. What that means is, let me feed on Jesus. Jesus said, come unto me. Look unto me. Feed on me as the meat that can give you life. Feed on me as the bread that will give you life. Do you know when you begin looking unto Jesus, Jesus begins dwelling in your heart and causing you to abstain from making human ability your food for life. Right? He starts dwelling in you, and your heart no longer gravitates to human ability for life, but it begins gravitating to God and God's life and God's sufficiency as the meat that can give you life. Because that meat remaineth forever, it doesn't perish. Right? And so the fast isn't, let me now go use my ability to not make human ability my food for life. The fast is, behold Jesus as the food that can give you life. That's the fast. Behold Jesus as the food that can give you life. And should you behold Jesus as the food that can give you life, it will loosen the bands of wickedness. It will break the yoke of bondage. It will set you free from the oppression of death. And it will put your soul to rest. You guys following that? Glory to God. Jesus says, take my yoke upon you, for that is what it means to be humble and lowly of heart. It will produce rest in your soul. To be humble and lowly of heart means to come to Jesus. Because you're saying Jesus is that which will give me life and not human ability. And so that's what it means to be humble and lowly of heart. These Israelites, guys, they thought what meant to be lowly and humble in heart was to put on bulrush and sackcloth and ashes and to sit there and look all sorrowful and mourning. Jesus talked about that. He said the Pharisees, they fast outwardly so people can see their fast. They wipe ashes on their faces. They want to look real bad. But he said a true fast is done secretly. What he was saying? He was saying that fasting occurs in the heart, man. It's not something you see outwardly through fasting from food. Glory to God. The fast God has chosen is Jesus. The fast God has chosen is for you to come unto Jesus and feed on the truth that is in Him as the food that can bring forth life in you.